Okay, so we're going to talk a little, not too much, about the Democratic primary happening on May 8th in Ohio for governor. And of course, we have a Senate race coming up, but Sherrod Brown is probably going to be the Democratic nominee. And I'm not doing this because I'm going to vote in the Democratic race. This is just analysis, and it's not intended as an endorsement. But if Dennis Kucinich is not nominated to be the Democratic candidate for governor of California in 2018, the party is fucked. They are fucked two ways from Sunday. Any way you want it, that's the way you need it. Any way you want it, they're going to get a beatdown because, look, there's four candidates in the race, and Kucinich. I was about to say John Kasich, but they're running to replace John Kasich, and hypothetically they have the opportunity to present an alternative to Kasich's 8 years of folksy, fake conservative politics. Kasich is obviously he's not running for any office this year. I think he's determined that if he was to lose an election this year, it would jeopardize any chance of him running in any national election in 2020, like to be a vice president candidate for a Democrat, or to be a vice president or presidential candidate for one of those fake, independent tickets like Evan McMullin did. Kasich is not going to run this year, so they can't run against him. They have to run against Republican Mark DeWine, probably, and I might do a shorter video, shorter than this, later this week about that one, because that's going to be far less of an interesting primary. Just, it's like I don't even care anymore. But let's talk a bit about the Democrats. So you have four people in the race, and I guess I'll just show you their profiles. You have Bill O'Neill of the Supreme Court, who, whoops, didn't want to close that window. So, and I'm using Wikipedia, and I'm not going to be relying on it because a lot of it's incomplete, and a lot of it is like stuff I don't give a shit about. So Bill O'Neill is the long shot candidate. He's been a justice on the Supreme Court for a while in Ohio, and he has this amazing overconfidence that's unbelievable. The guy's polling like very, very low across the state, and he made this hilarious posting last year during the whole Me Too thing, when people were getting outed all the time for sexually harassing women. So he said, well, I've had 50 consensual, no, he said encounters with 50 very attractive women that were all consensual. He went out and said that. This guy who's I think he's 71 years old now. And nobody, first of all, nobody wants that mental image in their head. I don't care how open-minded you are. And this old dude talking about, oh, I banged all these sluts back in the day, and they all wanted it. So that's one of the candidates, not the most important candidate, but I thought I would lead with that one. Then you have Joe Schiavone. Let me see if I can find him. Why am I getting... Oh, here we go. So this is a guy, he's a Youngstown area state senator. So this is in order of least important to most important. So he's the second to least important. And it's not that he's bad, it's that nobody's going to care about anything that he's doing. The guy is, he's in the Youngstown area. He's got a lot of ground to make up. And, he's a pro-union Democrat. If Dennis Kucinich were not running in the race, he would probably be the second most likely candidate to win, except for he's also kind of anti-gun, just like Kucinich. And then finally we get to the guy named Richard Cordry. and he's the former head of the. First of all, he was Attorney General here for like 2 years, and then was destroyed by Mike DeWine in that election. Okay, he was Attorney General for. Let me see if the election was 2010. I mean, he lost by 2 points, but he still lost. And that was in 2010, and that was when the entire Democratic ticket just got shoved out of office. And then after that, he became Lizzie Warren's poodle, actually, as the head of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Now, yeah, is the CFPB, as you know, its initials are called, is it popular among liberal leaders? Absolutely. Is it popular among the people? No, nobody knows what the fuck it does. And what they usually do is they try to claim that they're going after payday lenders and debt collectors and people who are, you know, victimizing consumers. And you know, I wouldn't say that I'm on the side of debt collectors and payday loan people. I don't think that we should be supporting them. I don't think that we should be. I don't think lobbying money should be taken from these. And maybe that's the answer. The answer would be to make amendments to the Constitution banning citizen or overturning Citizens United. And you know, that's what they should be focused on campaigning to do, not on creating this CFPB, which is basically it masquerades as a consumer advocacy organization, but doesn't really do that. I was actually talking to a friend of mine yesterday who happens to be like a, you know, a Fox News Republican or whatever. But he did give like a compelling story that, you know, the CFPB was basically hounding his business nonstop, the business that he works for. You know, I'm not going to tell what type of business because I'm not going to tell what type of friend I'm talking about. But they were basically hounding them because part of their work includes collecting debts. I think for people, and you know, there was nothing that they were doing that was illegal, and in court the CFPB would lose the lawsuit, but because of the cost of going to court and litigation and you know, and all of that, they have lost millions of dollars and have had to lay people off for no reason. You know, look, debt collection is an unpopular business to support. You're not going to win. You're not going to win office by saying, "Oh, I stand on the side of checking, you know, no checking the cash agencies." But the fact is that what Corddry did at the CFPB, it actually did virtually nothing to, you know, impact large banks like Wells Fargo. And you know, we were having an argument with somebody else yesterday, a liberal friend of ours. It did virtually nothing to put a dent in any of those large financial institutions like Wells Fargo and whatever. It didn't do anything that it was intended to do. And that's a lesson. You know, if you want to collect money from an organization that cheats you like that, first of all, pay attention to what your bank's doing. Second of all, you know, you create a class action lawsuit the way it is today, and you go after them that way. You don't depend on an agency like the CFPB. And you know, maybe later this week I'll go a little more in depth into that. You know, ahead of that primary, I think that this Richard Corddry, you know, he can hold out this accomplishment of being appointed head of the CFPB, and very few people are really going to question what that means. A lot of people in Ohio have no clue what that means. A lot of his opponents, including Kucinich, are not in a position to actually criticize the CFPB because it's thought of just like Obamacare, just like a lot of other so-called Obama era innovations, if you want to call them, as an accomplishment. But what an accomplishment! I mean, after 8 years, they didn't take down one shady bank. They wouldn't name a shady. I mean, they apparently, you know, Elizabeth Warren she really reamed Wells Fargo in the ass with that Senate interrogation that she gave him. I guess. I mean, he's only getting tons of severance pay and might never face a day in prison. So yeah, I guess he really got him Elizabeth Warren. I bet he's really enjoying, or he's really crying a river while he's sipping out of a coconut over in Bermuda or something. Yeah, good for you, Lizzie Pocahontas, as they call her. No, Richard Cordry is going to be likely the nominee for governor, even though he probably shouldn't be, because Dennis Kucinich is a much better candidate for progressives than he is. Dennis Kucinich has fought for $15 minimum wage for years. I don't support a $15 minimum wage. Most progressive Ohioans would. Dennis Kucinich is a huge supporter of unions and collective bargaining. I'm not a supporter of those things. Progressives are. He's a supporter of police reform. He's a supporter of gun control. He's been pro-choice, to my knowledge, for most of his life. And he's always been for whatever, the gay marriage crap and other stuff that doesn't really affect anybody except for people seeking attention who I don't give a shit about, but progressives do. He's been anti-war, which is something I do support in this context. I think in that respect, Dennis Kucinich would make a great governor if he would use his position as governor, in addition to the shitty policies that he would implement as a progressive governor, if he would say to Donald Trump, look, all these other bitches that could pretend to be looking after the welfare of the country, and then they say, well, we have to bomb fucking, Fiji or some other country that has nothing to do with us. You know what? I have your back. I'll be governor of Ohio. I'll say, Trump, you might be a dick, but when it comes to avoiding wars, I'll be the second, I'll be the second, what do you call it? Second counsel, second mate. I'll be the first mate to your captain, some sort of, I don't have a stupid analogy at the moment, but Dennis Kucinich would make a fantastic candidate for the Democrats in Ohio. And there's no way to disprove that. Now, yeah, he does have a few skeletons in his closet in terms of failures as mayor of the city of Cleveland for, I think, like 2 years in the 70s, where he fucking ran the city into complete bankruptcy, and they defaulted on their debt, and they had to be bailed out by the federal government, and he was kicked out of office because of that. Or something. I think it was either kicked out of office or they had to call like 2 special elections in 2 years just because of him. I don't remember exactly what happened because I wasn't born yet. But from what I hear, it was a pretty shitty time to live in this city, which is a dump, partly because of Dennis Kucinich and his mayoral candidacy. But yeah, he came back and he kept pushing his retarded policies of progressivism. And you have to give him credit. He stood against the Iraq War, which he was correct to do. He stood for a lot of those progressive values that, back in 2008, I think when let's look it up. I think he was for a lot of policies in 2008 that the other candidates, fuck. Presidential campaign. So, okay, so he wanted to create a single-payer system of universal health care that provides full coverage for all Americans by passage of the United States National Health Care Act. And he was proposing it in Congress. So, yes, he was a progressive candidate in 2008. Obama pretended to be for it. He never did anything. Immediate phased withdrawal of U.S. forces from Iraq. It took Obama until 2012 to do it. It was the wrong move under Obama, but Kucinich was the one who would have done it immediately. Let's assume if he would have gotten into office, he would have fulfilled it. There's no guarantees. Guaranteed quality of education for all, including free pre-kindergarten and college for all who want it. So that's a lot. That's a lot. Back in 2008, this was really progressive. Immediate withdrawal from the World Trade Organization and NAFTA. That's huge. And in Ohio, people hate NAFTA. Repeal of the USA Patriot Act. Yeah, a lot of people are now. I mean, there's certain things with Dennis Kucinich that it shows that he just never did abandon any of his beliefs. Um, Fostering a world of international cooperation. Yeah, fuck, like you can do that. I mean, nobody would have respected him, but you know, he that's kind of that's a meaningless platform plank. Abolishing the death penalty, environmental renewal and clean energy. That I mean, these weren't very well developed, so let's ignore those. Preventing the privatization of Social Security, providing full Social Security benefits at age 65. So he would have probably raised the taxes to the roof in order to keep Social Security solvent, which is part of the bargain. Creating a cabinet level Department of Peace. I remember that one. I think that's the one that made people laugh at him. But I mean, he stuck with it. He never. This is a guy you don't understand that the reason why people still respect him, I guess, was because even though people were laughing at him, he never was ashamed of his beliefs, and he just kept going, ratifying the ABM Treaty and the Kyoto Protocol. So the ABM Treaty is the anti-ballistic missile treaty, and the Kyoto Protocol, which would have, that's I think that's more to do with climate change. Introducing reforms to bring about instant runoff voting. That's an interesting one I have to look into. Protecting women's right to choose while decreasing the number of abortions performed in the U.S. I don't know how he can promise both of those. Ending the war on drugs, yes. It's legalizing same-sex marriage. So back in 2008, neither Obama nor Hillary Clinton were willing to support legalizing same-sex marriage. Dennis Kucinich was. He was. So if they would have voted for him, they wouldn't have had to go through. But they potentially, if he would have been president in 2008, which would have been a long shot, even given a victory in the primaries, yeah, they probably wouldn't have had to go through the courts and gotten it. Lowering the voting age to 16 and the drinking age to 18. So look, he's looking forward to 2018 when everybody suddenly thinks that the voting age should be taken down to 16 because they want gun control. So in 2008, he was advocating for what the rest of the morons in the Democratic Party are advocating for today. I mean, think about it. Think about it. This is their candidate. He's like he's like Doc from Back to the Future for them. Along with I mean, he doesn't have the Bernie Sanders hair like Doc did, but I mean, he's definitely the right candidate for them. Strongly promoting workers' rights, ending the H-1B and L-1 visa programs. So that's an appeal to red state voters as well. Restoring rural communities and family farms. Throw that one away. There's no specifics. Strengthening gun control and legalizing medicinal marijuana and decriminalizing non-medical possessions. So Dennis Kucinich, mark my words, if he is not the nominee, and it doesn't look like right now he will be, because I just saw, and I have the link in the description, I saw the Plain Dealer editorial committee debate between Kucinich and the other three. And the Joe Schiavone was probably the most impressive one, but he's not going to win because nobody gives a shit what he thinks, because he has no name recognition, and it will take a while for him to recover from this one, because he's going to be out of office for a few years because he's not running for his seat again. I think he's required to run this year. So so that guy actually was probably, if you really look at it objectively, he performed the best. But if you look at it in terms of what it means, Kucinich was far and away better than the other candidates in terms of making an impression, and he did win their endorsement because the Plain Dealer are a bunch of liberal morons, and they couldn't. First of all, they couldn't resist supporting their hometown boy, the former mayor of the city who ran the city into bankruptcy. And second of all, I mean, Richard Cordry said literally nothing during the debate. It was all about, I did this as CFPB head, and I did whatever, and blah blah blah, and I get things done. He is basically like Hillary Clinton's love child. He might be, actually. I think he's like 30 years younger than her. So, with all due respect, and as somebody from the outside, I would say Dennis Kucinich is probably the not just in Ohio. He might be the one of the best Democratic candidates there are at all anywhere in the country in 2018, because he is true to that alternative vision of a progressive party. It's just true. You can't, you can. I do laugh at him, but I respect him when I need to. And somebody who in 2008 was against the war, and in 2004 was against the war. Let's not forget that he ran for president in 2004 when he was already calling for Bush to be impeached. The guy has balls like fucking wrecking crews. You just hook his balls up to a fucking crane, and you can knock down any tower in the city here. So yeah, if you're a Democrat voter and you want somebody like that, you'd probably vote for Dennis Kucinich. If you're a voter who wants the state to be prosperous economically, you'll vote for. You might. You know what? I'm just going to say it. You won't vote for the Democratic nominee, no matter who it is, even Dennis Kucinich. But if you're somebody who believes in what in all of that stuff I was just talking about, Dennis Kucinich is the progressive candidate for Ohio, and that's just a fair analysis of it. And I dare anybody to dispute it. That's it. I'll see you guys later. I don't know if there might be a live stream later today, depending on if I find anything important to talk about besides the fucking war that we might still be in. But I think I'm going to work out. So until then, have a good rest of your weekend.